Hello and welcome. I am the Restless Kaiser.
And I am Johnny B. But together we are...
Modelling for Advantage! Oh, look at this, J Bizzle. Can you see it? Have you got one? You got one?
Yes. I've got one. Thanks. British, innit?
British, mate. British. See, one of the things that we're trying to do on the channel now is for each of us to focus more on national-specific things. So J Bizzle's going to get himself some Britishers. He loves painting. So what we got here is the British Peninsular Starter Army, 2 copies of. So I believe, John, that is around about 200 miniatures for you.
Is that it? Is that it?
Yeah, yeah. So it's on the front of this one, look. 72 British Line Infantry, 24 Portuguese, 12 Cavalry, Ossifer on a horse, Royal Artillery 6-pounder, and some flags and stuff. Sweet. That's what the box is. Let's have a look. Wouldn't it, wouldn't it, wouldn't it, wouldn't it, wouldn't it? Boom! British Peninsular Starter Army. So, this is a black powder starter set, isn't it, mate? Napoleonics.
Yes, it is. Black powder Napoleonic Wars, 1789 to 1815, sir. British Starter Armour Peninsula. I'm just looking at the artwork on the front, and these dudes look dodgy, especially this one laughing at the front here. He's just having
he's like remarkably chipper about the fact that he's in the front rank.
Yeah, he's like,
in an age of black powder. Front rank is not where you want to be, is it?
This dude, not that you can see, he's like, yeah, this is great, this.
He's loving it, mate. He's living the dream.
So,
the little drummer. So, mate, we got the box open. There's a lot of metal in here.
Quite a bit of metal in here.
Quite a lot of plastic. So this is a starter army. It's not a starter set. I think these are £90-ish if you pay full retail for them.
Okey
Mine was packed by Mirella. That girl does a lot of work.
She does all the work.
So this is it's not gonna include rules and stuff like that. It's literally just a particular force.
Okay.
So we're gonna have a bit of a divvy up of what we've got in here, and then we'll be back in a second. So, mate, this is when we finally get around to whatever it is. We're thinking about sharp practice. We're not ruling out playing backpack, but in this scale, it would just take us years to get these armies ready.
Especially me.
It's not that we're never gonna do it. We're just we're gonna play some games on the way at the very least. That a much smaller number of models require painting. So, but you're British, John. So where do you want to start?
You get a lot of stuff. I would like to. I don't know. Let's go through the metal because there's a hell of a ton of it, mate.
Yeah. Well, pick.
Let's have a look at the 4 British Line Infantry command packs, which you get there.
The 3.
3. Sorry, one's Portuguese. But we'll have a look at that in a moment.
All right. So we've got 3. Effectively, in between the plastic sprues and the metal, you get 3 24-figure British battalions.
Right.
So to make your standard British Line Infantry battalion, you're going to use 4 of these sprues, which have each got 5 guys on it, gives you your 20. And then your command pack has got your standard bearers and so forth in it. 3 identical packs of Peninsular British command figures. So this is going to be like your drummers, your standard bearers and so forth.
Yeah.
And probably a little bit of a choice of heads. Although, as I'm looking at it, there's actually 4 heads in here, so that's not really a choice of heads. One of the officers has got a head.
Yep.
One has a head.
One
3 do not.
has a head. True fact.
So you get a drummer.
You do. Looks all right. With the old sticks up to his nostrils.
You've got 2 standard bearers.
Yep.
One holding it across the chest.
And one just.
One holding it upright.
And then an ostifer.
And then you've got the officer looking into the distance.
It looks like he's saluting or something. He's like tipping his cap.
Oh, he's tipping his cap. Yes. Or holding his hat on.
Morning, sir.
Yeah.
But you get 3 identical officers like that. At least the other ones you can maybe sort of tilt the head slightly. So the drummers are looking slightly different way.
Yes.
But you're gonna have 3 of that, dude.
You are gonna have 3 of that, dude. I mean, the advantage of them making this in metal and this being one figure. If you want to have different officer figures, then you go to Perry's, you go to somebody else. You buy a pack of 5 or 6 officers and mix them up. So you're also getting here. These standard bearers. I don't know if you've seen on the back of your card.
Stabby sticks.
You've got some. I don't know whether it's brass. It looks like it might be brass.
Yeah, it could.
But it's not. It's not just a metal pole because they have actually got a bit of a blade on the end of the top of the standard.
That's dangerous, man.
It's dangerous.
In my hands.
Yeah. got these. You've got the braiding or the tassels that hang off the standards as well. And on the bits of paper, which you might not have noticed, you do actually have
I haven't got that
flag
far.
sheets, which are further down the bottom of the box.
That.
Yeah, so you've got all of those in there. So, yeah, in terms of these, I mean, that's a nice set of command figures, I think. I don't think there's anything to complain about here. Like you say, having 4 identically posed. Now, there's a thing, though, about is different people have very different views on that. Some people like the aesthetic of every line infantry regiment looking identical. They want everyone in the same pose to give that regimental feel. I personally like a little bit of movement.
Slight variation would be
Slight variation.
all right. But I say that, but I collect literally monopose plastic miniatures. Like proper monopose.
Yes. You get more monopose than metal.
Sorry?
I think metal is true monopose.
True monopose,
monopose.
There's no jiggling with that one, is there?
No, absolutely. So that's a nice thing. So the idea is you put these 4 figures with the other guys on
Bros, and you
get yourself a regiment. Yeah, absolutely. And the 2 standards thing, I think that is very British. Is to have the Union flag and a regimental flag,
right,
as part of your headquarters company.
That's pretty cool.
Headquarters section. The only thing that's throwing me about this is of the heads that I've got. I don't know if they're the same. I've got 2 in shakos and then 2 with bicorns.
Yeah.
But that means one of these standard bearers or drummers has got to wear a bicorn, and I didn't realise that they didn't wear shakos.
We need to have a look at that.
I mean, this is a thing, you see, is Napoleonic uniforms are a real rabbit warren that you can proceed down in great detail. Some regiments may, those kind of small differences, maybe that in a particular regiment, all of the drummers did wear bicorns and things like that. I mean, for all I know, they all do anyway. Not on the cover of the box, though. He's got a shako. So the uniform, from Warlord, there are 2... broadly speaking, 2 British infantry units. There's the Waterloo pattern, which has got the covered Belgic shakos, and then this is the earlier pattern uniform. And I think the tunic is slightly different and so forth. They look, to me, they both look like British Napoleonic soldiers.
It's very sort of like...
But to those that it matters, the shakos really are quite different, those later shakos. Yeah. But there will be more differences than that. But it might be down to they're wearing breeches rather than trousers, and
minor differences, so minor.
Well, but they're big to some people.
Oh yeah, for sure. Very identifying.
So that's the command pack. So shall we have a look at the sprue that goes with? Because you get 3 of them.
Please.
So these, I don't know how much there is to say. This is not the first time you've seen a British infantry sprue. It's very similar looking to the Waterloo one, but it is different. This is WGNBRI01, British Line Infantry brackets Peninsular. I couldn't tell you what the differences are, but these are really simple 3-part kits. You've got your mix and match with the heads and the backpacks, but I don't think the backpacks... There are differences between the back, but they are very slightly different. Like one of them's got a saucepan in the middle of it, or a mess tin or something.
They are pretty much the same. As you say, there's like two of them have got a slightly different detail on them. But again... But
you want them to look the same. Mostly, with a little bit of variation. So again, and you've got, 7 heads to choose from there. But they're all... There's a thing about these plastics in terms of their style, and I think that's probably to keep it simple on the sprue and to keep it... They're all marching.
Yep.
There's nobody firing. There's nobody advancing in any of the Warlord plastic.
No separate arms.
They're all marching.
Boom.
For me, it's my preferred posing, to be honest. The models don't collide with one another. When you start moving, once you get in the rank and flank game, especially one where you change formations or like Napoleonics, people firing have got a real problem with their overhang of muskets and so forth. So too with advancing. Or you have the units are advancing in pose, but are in fact firing in the game. Whereas I think the marching one is a kind of middle way between the 2.
Now, curious thing, I know nothing about Napoleonics. One of the dudes here has got like little shoulder doofers. The one on the end there. And you also get 2 little shoulder doofer whatsits on the end.
Shoulder doofer whatsits on the end?
Yeah, I think that's what they were called.
Oh, right. I see.
What's it?
So I assume that that's to enable you to make flank companies.
Right.
So you have this idea in the Napoleonic infantry battalion is generally, and my specific knowledge of particular nationalities, particular regiments, generally speaking, you have centre companies, which are musketeers or fusiliers or infantrymen.
Yeah.
And that's what most of your battalion is composed of. You then have usually 2 flank companies, one of which are your light infantry and one of which are your grenadiers. And usually they have slightly different uniforms. They'll have a different
little
fusil, is it? Yeah, they're slightly different decoration, and they might have different epaulets, collars, shoulder boards, all those kind of things to make that distinction. And as you say, one of these guys has got those. And I think you'll often find that kind of thing also on officers, potentially junior officers. So it depends how important that is to you to get that right.
Right.
You have the option, because what there isn't necessarily. We'll take a little break and we'll have a look at the doofer. So having a look at a little bit of paper, because there's not the kind of instructions I might want to expect in here. It does say the flank companies of each battalion made up of light infantry or grenadiers, and these are identified by the swallow's nest shoulder wings. That's what they call them.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that allows you put those on, and they have different coloured shako plumes. White in the case of grenadiers and green for light infantry. Does actually tell you. But it's kind of buried on this little sheet. So yeah, it is good. There's more information here than you might be expecting, as it were.
That's good, that.
So that was the regular British Line Infantry. You get 3 of those command packs. They're quite nice, I think. But as you say, I would be looking to get some different commander fit. I don't mind the drummer looking the same.
Yeah, but again, you can change heads. I'm sure some of these heads might be compatible with, but it's just the fact that on that specific officer model as well,
his head, because of the way he's holding his sword,
is right
up
there
against his hat. And I think with the metal casting, it's going to
be able to do it, but
that'd be a brush and quill thing.
Yeah,
you tell him that this can't be kit bashed, and he's like, give me a blade, I'll show you. Right, so that was the British infantry. We talked about the line infantry battalion. So you get 72 figures there. It's intended to be 3 regiments of 24.
Boom.
Each with 2 standards, an officer, and a drummer.
Drummer boy.
Obviously, you can change those unit sizes if you want, and because this is a black powder starter army, it's kind of expecting you to put 4 figures on a 40mm base. So that's kind of why these command packs. That's going to be a stand. One of your stands is metal, the others are all plastic.
Yeah.
And so again, with this proportion, if you get 4 of these sprues, which is how many you get 4 centre companies and you get 1 flank company. And if you want to do a second flank company out of that, you've been given the extra shoulder pieces, depending on how you want to do that.
Clever shenanigans.
So I think you have the right proportions of equipment. 3, 1, 1, 1. Yeah, for a 24-figure regiment, you have the right balance for 4 figures to a base. That's pretty good. That's a well-designed system across the whole with the 5 figures to there. All right. So that was the British Line Infantry.
Boom.
So the other regiment that you're going to get in here is Portuguese. Now that's really, really interesting. So if you buy the Waterloo British starter set, you get some Hanoverians, I think. And if you buy this Peninsular one, you get some Portuguese. The British Army in the Peninsula was not very British. It was a bit British, a bit King's German Legion, who wore the same uniforms but were Germans.
Okay.
But they looked British. They regarded themselves culturally, I think, as British. But they definitely spoke German, and they were from Hanover and places overrun by Napoleon. The King's German Legion. There was King's German Legion, there were Spanish troops, and there were a lot of Portuguese. The Portuguese army undergoes a massive expansion because under sort of British retraining, because Portugal is all but overrun by the Napoleon, and then they get knocked out. And
right.
I say Napoleon, one of the important things about the Peninsular campaign and why Napoleon fanboys was claiming that Wellington was never really that good of a commander is although Wellington wins in Spain, Napoleon's never in Spain. It's always his idiot brother, one of his many idiot brothers, or his cousin, I think it's his brother,
right,
who gets made king of Spain. because they kind of kidnapped the existing Spanish king. His brother's like, these Spanish, they really don't like their king, mate. We should take over, proclaim a republic, and then make me king. And he's like, oh, all right then, we'll give that a try. And it's like, oh, turns out the Spanish don't like that.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, because there's this big guerrilla war goes on alongside. The Spanish regular forces don't do particularly well in the Napoleonic War. Certainly in the early phases, they're largely overrun by the French. But the Spanish ordinary folk in the countryside constantly
messing them up.
Yeah.
It's a different style of fighting.
Guerrilla. I think the idea of guerrilla warfare, I think it's a Spanish word.
Is this where it come from? Is this where
I don't want to make that claim.
Right, okay, let's not go there.
I think that is a claim that is made.
Yeah.
I think that is what it said. It's definitely not the first instance in history of guerrilla warfare, but the guerrilla warfare as we understand it now, I think the language probably does come from there.
Okay. So they smashed them up.
Yeah,
but
the Portuguese had a little bit sort of more space. They weren't necessarily under French occupation all the time, so they could train a new army and they create a new, very competent army. And it makes up a significant proportion of Wellington's forces in Spain. Portuguese. So you get this. I don't know whether it's an older or a new sprue, but it's a much more spacious sprue.
It does seem that way.
There's a lot of space on this sprue. I mean, it's probably twice the overall size of the British infantry one.
It's got a date on there, 2015.
But there's no more stuff on it.
2014. It's a later sprue than...
It's a later one. This is 2015, but only by a year.
So not much.
So you've got several more heads on here. Portuguese,
loads more heads.
Infantry, significantly more heads.
There's going to be some sort of nuance there for why they're different.
Really interesting, and I'm not quite sure why. There's one of them got a separate arm.
Separate arm?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why they've chosen to do that, because there doesn't seem to be anything on here for him to put in that arm.
One's just like a fist, and the other one is... It looks like he could be holding something, but what might that be? So do you reckon that's a banner arm?
Well, I wonder whether the sprue comes before the metal command pack,
and that was
they've left that option, because he's got his musket in his other arm, right?
Yeah, unless he's carrying a second musket.
Unless he's carrying a second musket, yeah. And the only other pieces on here, other than the packs, which again have got a little bit of variation in them, just enough to make them feel different, is is this a water canteen? Because it's quite a distinctive one.
There's a very,
Are the others carrying one?
But there's only one of those.
Or is it some sort of grenade? Maybe we should go back to our bits of paper. Well, if any of you know what this is, it might be wine or something.
Yeah, it's got like a little bibbly-bobbly.
They've bothered to sculpt it unique, and they're not all carrying one. It's not like one of them doesn't have it and all the others do. So it's obviously, it looks like it's some sort of liquid. But with a lack of knowledge of it, it could even be a grenade or something. I'm going to go with wine.
That looks like a beverage.
And there's a command pack to go with these. So while we get these out. So, John, do you know anything about why Britain has such a long relationship with Portugal? I mean, it's the oldest alliance in the world is between Britain and Portugal.
Because
between England and Portugal.
Because, like, fish trade. There you go.
Fish trade.
Yeah,
that's a nice idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's not what it is now.
Because there's a royal link.
I mean, you're connected to royal houses all over Europe. That's an part of it. It is because wine, sir.
Wine.
So if you go back, when the English were French.
Right.
After William the Bastard in 1066.
Yeah.
And the official language of the English court becomes French.
That's harsh,
because the ruling class of England
lies.
French Vikings.
No, lies.
Well, that's why we hate them, mate. It's French Vikings run our country. You read the court manuscripts, they're all in French. The laws were passed in French.
Wow.
It's outrageous, sir. And that's why we need to put it right. But that relationship sours under Edward III. Because the King of England is also a Duke of France. So England had bits of France. It didn't have it because they were English. It had it because the guy who was the King of England was originally the Duke of Normandy.
Oh, man.
He was a French aristocrat. And until Edward III, English kings had paid a kind of notional homage to the King of France. Edward III's like, no way, dude! I'm the top dude.
I'm the dude.
I'm the dude. And then the 100 Years' War sort of kicks off for the falling relationship. Because Edward III was in line to also be King of France, but it ends up going to his cousin. And he's like, that guy's a prick. I should be King of France as well.
Whoa.
And I'm certainly not going to pay homage to him. So, anyway.
That's okay.
We get wine in England from Gascony. Gascony, it was called Aquitaine at the time. It's where various ones. It's a mass-producing wine region rather than a quality one.
Okay.
It's got in modern France, Gascon wine is like this, the cheap stuff in the plastic bottles. It's like there's table wine, and then there's that you get from Gascony, even cheaper. But there's, I like any region. There's one or two good ones, but we lose access to wine in the English court. And so what we do is we need to find an alternative supply that doesn't sour on the journey, on the long sea voyage. And so we start an arrangement with Portugal. But because of the long distances involved at sea, they fortify the wine with brandy.
Whoa.
Which makes it a higher alcohol content, so it doesn't sour as quickly, it doesn't get the biologicals.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is called, that drink, port.
Is it?
Yeah.
Don't drink, mate.
You don't drink?
Cup of tea.
But that's where that really long-standing relationship starts.
Well, I never.
And like 1453, when we lose Gascony during the beginning of the Wars of the Roses.
Wow.
Yeah. Really, really old alliance.
That's like truly old.
Truly old. Still the same alliance.
True fact.
Probably. Like all of the history that I remember rather than read yesterday might be apocryphal.
Pinch of salt.
Let's talk about the Portuguese, the metal. So we've got 4 dudes
Portuguese.
in here.
You get a bunch of dude bro plastic.
You get 4 dude bros. You get 8 heads. They're big on giving you lots of heads.
There's a lot of Portuguese heads.
Yeah, you've got these little things. I don't know what these are. Some kind of sash, some kind of dagger.
Surely these
Are these for the
like
tops of the
banner,
standards?
yeah.
I think they do. They're really interesting looking. They may be. I mean, for all I know, that could be like the fleur de lis for the Portuguese royal family, you know, something stupid like that. That I really should know, but I don't. So you've got
Same again. You get your 2 banner bearer dudes.
Yes,
well, one of them
looks
looks
wearing the frock
specifically.
coat.
Yeah, he looks like he should be.
He should be a bit more.
He should be wearing one of them hats.
And then a drummer, and then more of the kind of officer that you were hoping for. He's in a fairly solid pose for a kind of junior officer, but he's got a separate head. Yeah?
Yeah.
None of these.
God dropped him. Which one's the boss man, do you think, then? The one in the frock coat thing?
No, I think he's one of the standard bearers.
Reckon?
Well, just from what he's doing with his right arm.
Oh, yeah, because who else would have the other banner if not for him?
If it's not him, it's not. Yeah, it's got to be him. It's got to be him. But he might be. There might be a bit of. But often things like people who carry banners have particular ranks and slightly different uniforms. Like you've heard of the term colour sergeant and things like that in more modern senses. So it's not just like, you know, oh, Fred, your turn to carry the flag. Do you know what I mean? So. And because this is a fairly new army that's been built in Portugal, a new modern army, so they didn't have armed forces. It's just like, to fight Napoleon, we're going to need to start again with this.
True fact.
So the guy might have quite a distinctive uniform. I mean, he definitely looks like it. But it could just be like he's just wearing a winter coat and the rest of them are not. So that's the Portuguese. Really nice to see Portuguese in it. These are Portuguese line infantry, though.
Mate, have you seen? There's a little. You seen that Portuguese bit there?
Oh yeah, it tells you. It tells you all the words.
You get flags for them, which is awesome.
Yeah, very bright colours.
You get a little bit of blurb on the back about it all. But it also tells you the regiment numbers, and this is what you were saying about the crazy nuances and bits and bobs. The collar colour, the cuff colour, the lining / trimming, and the shako plume. Wow. And they're all slightly different variants.
The variations are the same set of colours.
Although shako plume is red / white all the way down the list.
In the case of the line infantry. Yeah, I wasn't sure whether there was a 5th guy on here who had a slightly different uniform. Again, so the Portuguese, the most famous Portuguese unit, which we've not got here, the Portuguese cachadores or cacadores. Cacadores, as they're often called. They're their light infantry. And I think they may have all had rifles. And this is the age of the musket. I mean, when we talk about Napoleonics and say rifles, we're not talking about breech load. We're talking about muzzle-loaded.
Right.
It's essentially still a musket. It's just got rifling in it, making it more accurate. And I think there's either a very large preponderance of them, or they entirely have rifles. But they're a bit of a wargamer's favourite. You know, like a KV tank in other areas. Just like, oh, this is a really good. This army has got a really good unit in it. And that's the Cacadors, and it's got a great name because you get to say Caca.
Caca.
Yeah. So those are 2 regiments. So you've got 4 regiments between those. Again, they're 24-figure regiments. Nice mix there. So let's looking at the cavalry sprue. This is the Union Brigade cavalry sprue, and apparently it's going to make you at least 3 different regiments. We check in a bit of paper, John? What have we got?
6th Inniskillings, 2nd Royal Scots Greys, and the 1st Royal Regiment of Dragoons.
First Royal Regiment of Dragoons.
Boom.
So what you've got here is a heavy cavalry sprue with some different heads.
Lots of different heads.
Lots of different heads. And as it mentions, it does say on this little leaflet precisely which of these helmet types are used by which of those major regiments. But then you've also got this bicorn, which is the kind of Napoleonic equivalent of a cavalry forage cap. Right. You know, it's like everyone kind of can use these and does a bit. Yeah, I mean, you know, people. There's a lot more variation in uniforms than people necessarily give, because we really like that regimented look.
Yeah.
But actually, people get issued with the uniforms that the depot has, and the officers buy their own and make them look like what they want.
Oh, wow.
I mean, if you've ever watched the Waterloo movie, Picton famously fought in a top hat and tails with an umbrella.
I do not remember that, but yeah.
You don't remember that in the Waterloo movie? I mean, he was sort of famous for not wearing a military uniform of any type. You know, he's not wearing a red uniform. He's wearing a black one with
a top hat. That's crazy.
I mean, he's a division commander. He's got thousands of guys underneath him. So between these, it is a heavy cavalry horse. It is a heavy cavalry man. It's got that, you know, you could believe that this guy is wearing a breastplate if you painted it in a certain way.
It does seem a bit.
Although I wouldn't necessarily try and do that. There's a lot of modularity on it. You see the
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Left arm is holding the reins and is kind of couched in that position, but the right arms are free. And you do look like you have. They've all got the heavy cavalry straight saber.
Yeah.
The light cavalry saber is that saber that you kind of think of as a saber, the curved sword.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's a heavy cavalry saber. Yeah.
This dude here, one of the arms, he's got a pistol, man, and his heavy cavalry saber is just dangling from a little wrist rope. I don't know if you can see that there.
So there's some.
That's
in this period, there's a surprising amount of sort of inventiveness around those sort of things. I've never particularly seen that. I'm sure someone here can tell you, but that will be a particular way of. There's probably something that holds his sword there while he fires his pistol. One of the things I don't know so much in this period, but probably certainly in boarding actions they still did it. But from the pike and shot era, pistols are heavy. And pistols take a long time to reload. So if you're in a serious fight, after you shot someone with your pistol...
They're quite unwieldy.
You throw it at him. You fire it. And you've seen like the handles and a big lump on the other end. You could throw that at someone. It's going to... Oh, you could beat him with it? Yeah. I mean, you don't need to do that if you've got a cavalry saber.
I mean, I've
got a better version of it. But I don't know whether they were still throwing.
Having options is always good. I mean,
options, mate. Options. So this probably isn't going to make you light dragoons because probably the horse is too big, too muscly. Right. You know, this is intended for a heavy cavalry replacement, which includes some of the senior dragoon. Dragoon regiments. The heavy cavalry horses are just a lot bigger. I think. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. You've definitely got dragoon type helmets on here. It's interesting because at first glance I assumed that this was a British heavy cavalry.
Right.
Very much like it's the Scots Greys or the Blues and Royals or whatever, but it's a bit more flexible.
It seems like they've covered a fair few bases with this.
They've covered more bases than I had realised. So you get 6 sprues on here. You get 2 dudes through a sprue. Is it 6 sprues? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now that's interesting because that means you get a freebie. or sort of free, because the metal command pack that you've got here, you've only got 12 horses, but you've effectively got 14 riders.
Oh.
Because in this command pack, you've got 2 commanders. Now, one of them...
He's going some, mate.
Well, this guy... But he is a Scots Grey. He has got that really furry hat on, hasn't he? There's pretty much no option other than for him to be a Scots Grey,
regardless.
and he's a bugler. Also, it's possible that several buglers in different... The uniforms for musicians and things that tend to be really specialised. He could be potentially a bugler in a number of regiments.
Really?
Actually. I don't know the answer.
Who knows? I don't know.
No. But they often have... Like, have you seen the ones... Well, just looking at the cover of the box, look. You see that drummer? He's got a very different uniform. Completely different uniform.
He might not even be British.
Yeah, it could be in a different army. His uniform is that different. So I'm not saying that is the case. I'm saying that could be the case. You know, there's no shortage of rivet heads when it comes to Grognard. The true home of the Grognard is in the Napoleonic Wargaming.
This is it, man. The piping is the wrong colour.
Yeah. So the other guy,
I like the wafty sword.
And he's got head options.
Yes, he does have head options.
Now, also interestingly, then,
but he's only got 3 head options.
4
head options. Oh no, there is a 4th. Yeah, there's a bugle arm as well.
There is a bugle arm, and if we go back to looking at these don't have arms. So you could have a bugler if you wanted. That bugle does fit on the sprue.
Options.
Now, I think that there was something in here. I think that on campaign they didn't always take all the musicians and so forth. Right. I think there's issues in the Peninsular campaign with supporting cavalry regiments. Just the amount of fodder, the logistics of replacing the horses, especially the higher prestige regiments. Not just because they're like, I expect a good quality of life, and we for everything. But you know, the animals are the more highly customized, specific you breed an animal, the less versatile it is. So these really heavy cavalry, you know,
they're going to be struggling out in that.
They're going to really struggle in the weather, with the dehydration. You know, they need to be
terrain.
To do well. They need to be quite pampered beasts. Whereas your farm horse is fine in Spain, cool, but isn't particularly fast. And I think that's one of the reasons they have very different types of horses for different roles.
Yeah.
But because I was a bit concerned when I saw this Union Brigade talking.
What are they doing in this box?
If they are going to be, as I said, lead armoured regiments. Again, I don't think they went to Spain because I don't think they'd survive there very long.
No.
Because it's not just that Spain is hot, is that this is a bit of a dirty war going on in Spain. There's a lot of work with Spanish guerrillas and so forth. There's not so many major pitch battles that are terribly decisive. There are lots of battles, but they're a bit more scrappy.
Yeah.
There's a lot more of like dragoons as mounted infantry is a thing of the past, really, although dragoons do still carry muskets in this period. But because of the much more dispersed nature of the operations and campaigns, there's still quite a bit of that happening, that these are can function as mounted infantry.
Okay.
You know, and you have
transport to get you from A to B. And
just to sort of block a road, try and get half a day ahead of another column. We're supplying the armies, keeping these armies in the field in munitions and in food with a hostile population. It's more of a thing, you know. So Sharp isn't based on nothing.
I was literally.
There is a fair bit of that going on.
I was thinking about most of the shops that I've seen, and it's like one little backwater town. Yeah, and like 24 men.
I mean, I think there's an element of extras are expensive.
Yes,
especially with location filming in Sharp. But you know, but so too you read the Hornblower novels. You know, the Navy is conducting raids of various. It's a bit more bitty. Not entirely. There still are major campaigns with armies fighting major battles.
It's not just.
But it's a war.
And stuff.
It's a war that takes many, many years to conclude. You know, it's not over in a campaign season.
Wow.
So anyway, that's the cavalry. It's a really nice, versatile sprue.
Yeah,
but because of the swords, they're all straight swords. It looks like they're all heavy cavalry sabers. This isn't going to get you your light dragoons or your hussars, but they have really different uniforms anyway.
Okay.
I don't know about the light dragoons. They might have a similar uniform. The hussars are really, really different though. That's those. So we've got a few other metal bits left. We have got
not many though.
No, we've got a cannon.
Woo! Boom!
Which is a British 6-pounder. So I think that this cannon is identical or near identical to the one that you get in the Waterloo set. But the guys, I think the models are in the same or similar poses, but they've got a slightly different uniform. I think is all that is. You know, like the plume is maybe to the side or something like that. And this is the.
Look at that.
It says it's the 6-pounder, but they look like the same 4 poses. This looks really familiar. If there is a difference, it's quite marginal. But I'm sure the uniform's nice. And that was packed by Joe W.
I got Andy, mate. Andy. A lot of my stuff's done by Andy, except a few bits.
Yeah.
By Michael.
By Michael, I didn't do it, mate. And then the last thing in here is
the dude bloke.
Is our British mounted officer. Now I think this is quite a nice model from what I.
Oosh! He's like eating a sandwich or something. Oh no!
He's eating a sandwich.
No. He's taking one of his gloves off, I think, and he's
doing that thing whereby you hold your glove.
He's holding the reins, and then he's got the glove.
He's holding a glove in the other hand, and just kind of flopped onto his.
Yeah.
Looks like I got 3 hands.
Yeah, it does look. Yeah. Oh, I wonder if anybody's painted that as 3 hands.
Yeah. Decided advantage in a poker game. He just looks like what you imagine a British Napoleonic colonel would look like, right? I got myself a cape, a giant moustache,
he's
some gloves.
Extremely privileged gentleman.
Exactly. Well, of course, in this period, people still buy their commission. The thing is, he's got a real dopey look. The horse is eating. Because he's got that...
Well, there's nowhere for him to be. He's just sitting up on the hill, isn't he? Watching his mates
just grazing.
It's
like even the horse is chilled.
Watching the serfs get blown away.
Yeah, it's like this guy's not working for a living. Even barely is his horse.
Yeah, that to me that
guy's
depicts the Napoleonic era. That is it. No, it's just the dude, right? And it's just like, go on, dudes, go and get shot for me.
Yeah. I'll just graze my horse here.
That's mental.
Yeah. So that's a really nice model for inclusion. He looks and feels like a commander. So you get a heck of a lot of figures in here.
That's a lot of stuff.
You get your flag sheets. You've got, as I say, 3 British regiments at 24 figures, a Portuguese regiment, a 12-figure cavalry regiment. You get all the accessories. You know, it's not... Sometimes with these starter sets, you don't get the flags or you don't get the music. You know what I mean? They could just give you this.
Yeah, they could.
But they've given you the metal bits. So, for example, I think if you buy a Portuguese regiment box, you get you get a flag sheet, you get a metal bag, and you get 4 of these. They've given you exactly what you would want. There could be a little bit more variety in here, I guess, in terms of the British regiments. But I think you're literally talking about 2 figures. You know, I don't think it's that big a deal. I really don't.
And for what it's for, I don't. Do you really need the variety when it's just going to be literally the same as when you did the ACW stuff? You're looking at the flags, man, and the jackets. Yeah. That's what you're looking for. The mass.
Absolutely.
Look of it on the
overall effect. I don't see what those differences are. No, I don't. Don't know. Quick count. There's something in the region of 120 figures, not including all the cannon and all of the horses in this set. So you're paying significantly less than £1 a figure. It's not 50p a figure, which I think is what we were looking at with that Waterloo set, which is great. But that didn't have things like these standard bearers or the metal.
All the extra gubbins. It
didn't have all of those extra gubbins. You know, so if you wanted to play this period, I think one of these is absolutely... Is it essential? I don't know. But this, I think, is the only British cavalry sprue they do. This is the only British Napoleonic sprue they do, you know, in terms of plastic. And getting one of each of these metal packs, I still think it's the kind of place to start.
All right.
If you want to play mass battle. What I am looking at now, we're getting it. For something like sharp practice, you need about half this many models. I think it's a game
That is still intimidating, man.
I think it's more your 50 model game rather than your hundreds of model games. But you've still got the range in here, so you can play several different types of 50 model armies. One that's more Fusilier based, one that's more, So overall, I think I'm impressed with this. I think that they've got the right amount of modularity, and I think that's really important. I do not want to put 100 Napoleonic, 200 Napoleonic guys.
Can you imagine having to stick all the arms and then balance the rifles in your arms?
Exactly.
No, thanks.
Exactly.
No, it's a good shout what they've done with that.
You want a little bit, but
not too much,
but not a lot. Yeah. No, because the amount of modelling that you have to do for those, even for these cavalry, it's barely more than just the effort involved in basing the model. You got to get the glue out.
Yeah.
But little more than that. And I built a few of these. Built a few of their simple model kits, not these particular ones yet. And they go together extremely easily. Yeah, the pieces fit.
Good. That's always a bonus,
in the way
man.
that they should do. Where I sometimes run into modelling problems is as soon as I got a handle super glue. And I had to glue a metal head into a socket.
Yeah.
That's when I found out I'm actually attached to as many of the pieces.
Oh, man.
But I'm really looking forward to seeing you get some British painted, John.
Yeah, so
when
am
can
I.
people expect to see you with your 50 model sharp practice?
So I think, let me just check my calendar. Hang on a second.
Callum's halfway through my French.
I'm going by this. If we look at the 215th of Jalemba, 2073, should be good, mate.
So closing remarks on this in terms of value for money. I think, as we said, if you want to start mass battle, Napoleonic 28mm, there are 4 regiments of infantry, 1 regiment or 2, depending on how you do them, in here. That's not really enough to play Black Powder. I mean, you can try the game.
It's similar to what we did with the ACW.
We played with about 7-8 regiments
of Diddy ones, Diddy ones. But
it's the same rule set.
Exactly right. Yeah.
2 of these is probably more what you're looking at. That's a big painting project.
That's a massive painting project.
A lot of work. And I don't know how I'd feel whether I would want 2 of these sets. So I wouldn't want a second commander in such a distinctive pose. If I was going to have the second cannon, I'd want different poses for the character, I think. And I think you mix and match is what you do with that. As you start with this. If you want to do mass battle Napoleonics, that's your core force. And then as you go forward, saying, okay, well, I quite like the infantry sprue, so I'll get some of them, but I'm going to get my officer from Perry. I'm going to look for a few individuals. Speaking to other people, 3 brigades is the kind of, seems like the optimum where game doesn't take too long. There's enough tactical flexibility. And if you wanted to play a game, as I said, small scale game like the Muskets and Tomahawks Napoleonics now, of course, is out. We've been looking at potentially doing that. But the rules are really expensive because it's an expensive supplement to a fairly expensive rule set.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So it's like a 30 quid manual and then another 30 quid expansion set.
Boo.
Yeah, so or maybe 30 and 20, but it's a lot of money for just rules
for words
of a game that you haven't played. But that's similar kind of small scale. I've been watching Dom from Boots on the Table, and it looks all right. I wouldn't say it looks amazing, but it looks all right.
Okay.
And so too, sharp practice. These are things that I think we can do on the way.
That's more going to be our
to the mass battle stuff.
What do you mean on our way? Whoa! What do you mean on our way to the mass battle stuff?
Mate, come on, everyone who's ever done any wargaming wants a room full of Napoleonic figures. I was like, ask somebody to draw you a picture or describe a movie scene where someone does war games. They're going to describe banks of Napoleonic figures, aren't they?
Yeah.
it's the premium in the popular imagination. You got to do it at some point, mate. You got to get a Napoleonic army. You got to paint one. That is a fact.
Oh, wow.
Guys, we've been waffling on far too long. That's our look at this. You want to start some British? I think you can't go wrong here.
Hey.
Thank you for watching. If you like the kind of stuff that we do, rather than just waiting for the blooper reel, why don't you head on over to our website, modelingforadvantage.co.uk. We've got affiliate links to places like Whaling Games there, where when you buy your models, if you buy it through our link, we get a little bit of kickback and it doesn't cost you a penny more. thought love was only true in fairy tales.
Wah, wah.
Seems the more I gave, the less I got.
Wah, wah.
Love was out to get me. All I got is pain. And I wanted sunshine, I got rain.
And then I tell her face.
Wah, 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 wah.
Now I'm a believer.
Bow, bow, bow.
Something, something.
Not a trace.
Not a trace.
Of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. I may or may not be an Easter egg.
I think it might be detrimental to the channel.
Are
this
you
beard.
fluffing yourself, John?
I don't know what I'm doing.
You're trying to look more monastic.
Cool.
In a kind of, can I have 27p for the boss sort of way, yeah.
I need to get milk canes to go to work. Can you help me? I'm only
Oh, you have to go to
40 pence
work, mate.
I'm only 40 pence short.
You don't look like someone who's on his way to work, mate.
Yeah. Me.
Not unless you work in the lab as one of the rats. Beep, 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 beep. Alright. Is the microphone on?
Affirmative.
Always treble check, man.
Affirmative.
Film is rolling, battery's in. You're there. Beautiful, John. Beautiful.
Shonky angle.
Give him some sugar. Go on, give him some sugar. Beauty. Look at
Where
those
are they? There they are.
uncommonly low nipples, mate.
That's odd. And
They're not in the right place. They're like making out for it. They're like trying to make a break for it. They're trying to leave you behind because you're a loser.
everyone else does.
Right, let's do it. Hello and welcome. I am the Restless Kaiser.